Hello.
Welcome to
Hello,
our,
princess.
oh my God. Welcome back, or welcome for the first time to Hex and Moon Scary Stories. I'm Vatii,
I'm Minx.
and we're going to tell you a couple scary stories tonight.
We
I have
are.
not heard her stories before, and she hasn't heard mine, so
I
you're
know.
learning with us.
We
Did you
like
want
to
to go?
surprise each other. Oh, did I want to go first?
Yeah, because you're doing two, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm doing too. I can
Let's
sandwich you
sandwich.
in the middle.
Yes,
Yeah.
sandwich me.
Horror story sandwich time. Also, I totally lied. When Vadi was getting ready to hit record, I was like, oh no, I don't have any stems. And then I immediately did it. I was so sorry.
Autism. It
The
happens.
hello princess burst forth from my lips unbidden. High crime indeed.
If you haven't been here before, me and Minx once a week sit down and we read each other a few scary stories. I have not heard her stories. She has not heard mine. So it's new to everybody.
Exactly. New to us, new to you. Sometimes, and this has only happened twice, I'm not going to tell you which ones, you'll just have to guess. But sometimes I don't even finish my own stories. I'm like, I want to know what happens in the moment because I'm crazy. But I read most of them all the way through.
I did not know that.
Yeah, you didn't know that? Sometimes I stop and I'm like I like the well, I don't want to say because I don't want to give it away, but one of them I like had to reread it because I realized I didn't finish it and then I got to the same part and I was like, "You know what? I'm just going to stop here again, but this time with intention and not because I fell asleep."
That sounds about right, actually.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
oh, also, you might have noticed last week we uploaded something a little bit different. We have
Mhm.
started a new show, which is After Hours, where we just kind of chat. You get to watch us play a little Valheim. So it's actually a video, but you can also just listen to it in audio format as well.
Yeah, we do both here. We like to cater to everyone's needs.
You can watch me beat up goblins
Oh my god,
while
you
we
did
talk
get
about stuff.
attacked by a troll, like,
I
midway
did.
through.
Yeah, it was
I'm over
terrifying.
here, like, cleaning my dog's face, and you're over there like, "Help, I'm being attacked by a troll."
She wasn't even here.
I wasn't
Um,
even there.
we are also working on a new series, which I'm hoping we can start debuting pretty soon.
Yeah.
It's all about SCPs. So
Mhm.
we will announce when we are putting the first episode of that out,
I
which will be
know.
fun.
We did all the, like, studying about
I
because
wrote
there's so much.
I wrote a script.
She did. There's so
I
much
wrote a
that goes
script.
into just even understanding, like, a lot of the terminology used in SCP stories. There's so much you need to know. And then I did actually pick what I'm going to be reading first for our first SCP. Like, when we're actually reading the stories, I did choose my first story.
I chose one and then I decided it was too long, so I chose a second one. So I have two
Mhm.
stories ready.
Hell yeah.
But
I
yeah,
gotta catch up.
so stay tuned for that.
Mhm.
Anyways, why don't you start us off?
I will. What are you in the mood for? The wife or the mother?
Mom?
Mom? Mommy? Mamacita?
Mom?
All right. So I'm going to start us off tonight with What Was Living with My Mother. And this is from a new author. Side note, Vadi and I did both agree to do new authors this episode because I know we've used a lot of the same authors or we've kind of snuck in like a new one here or there. Tonight we are solely featuring new authors. So I would like to welcome into our little community Euphoric Mango 954 on Reddit. And I found this story in the No Sleep about 2 months ago. And when I first read it, I was a little freaked out. So I hope you enjoy. Are you ready?
I am so ready. Let's go.
All right. What was living with my mother? When I moved back in with my mother after her hip surgery, I expected a lot of things. I expected the smell of antiseptic, I expected pill bottles all over the kitchen counter. I expected to help her stand up, help her sit down, help her into the shower, and then pretend not to notice how much it humiliated her to need me for any of it. I expected old age to make the house smaller. I didn't expect it to make the house hungry. The first thing I found under her bed was a peach skin. Not a peel, not a pit, just the skin. Turned inside out and sucked so clean it looked almost white. I was changing her sheets when I saw it near the wall, flattened in the shadow cast by the bed frame. At first I thought it was tissue paper. Then I crouched, picked it up, and realized what I was holding. Mom, I said, why is this under your bed? She was in the chair by the window, a blanket over her knees, looking through one of those mail order catalogs she never bought from. She didn't even turn her head. Throw it out. That was it. No embarrassment, no confusion, no attempt at explaining it. Just throw it out. Something about that bothered me more than the peach skin itself. I wish I could tell you I knew right then that I was in the wrong kind of story. But people normalize disgusting things for a long time before they call them frightening, especially in family. So I threw it out. The next morning, I found a used bandage behind her radiator with bite marks on it. That was the first thing that made my stomach really turn. The dressing had come off her hip incision the day before. I knew that because I had changed it myself. Her surgery scar ran along the outside of her thigh, red, puckered, angry looking, held shut by a row of metal staples that made me queasy if I stared too long. I had wrapped the old gauze in tissue and put it in the bathroom trash. And now there it was, behind the radiator. Unwrapped, damp in the center. One corner compressed with blunt little half-moon marks where something had bitten down and pulled. I stood there too long with it in my hand. Mom, I said louder this time. What the hell is this doing in here? She looked at it, then at me, and I saw something on her face that I misunderstood for another week. Not confusion, not dementia, shame. I don't know, she said. This came off your leg. So throw it out. There it was again. That phrase. Not, let me see, not, that's strange. Not, how did it get there? Just get rid of it. By then, I had only been back in the house 10 days. 10 days of helping her to the bathroom, measuring pills into little plastic cup, washing her hair in the sink because she couldn't stand long enough for a real shower yet. 10 days of hearing her thank me in clipped little bursts like gratitude itself was beneath her. 10 days of sleeping in my old room upstairs and remembering why I'd left that house so fast at 18 and then never stayed longer than Christmas after that. My mother has always been a proud woman, but not in the attractive way people romanticize. Not stoic, not dignified. Proud in the mean, impractical way that makes a person insist they're fine while bleeding through a dish towel. So at first I told myself that's all it was. Painkillers, age, embarrassment. Maybe she was hiding food and forgetting it. Except the things I kept finding weren't random. They were all soft. Fruit, yogurt, pudding, applesauce, bread crust gone wet with broth or butter, banana with tiny worried bites all the way around it, hidden behind the laundry hamper, a crushed yogurt cup licked clean and tucked under the bed frame, the cap from her cough syrup bottle with teeth marks around the rim, an empty tube of prescription skin cream flattened from the bottom and torn open at the end. That one bothered me almost as much as the bandage. Not because of what it was, because of how it had been used. Not squeezed, not spread, opened and consumed. And always, always, the evidence was low to the ground. Under the bed, behind the radiator, between the nightstand and the wall, and the narrow gap beside the laundry hamper. Never on the dresser, never on the bedside table, never in a place that suggested an old woman had simply dropped something and forgotten it. It was all down near the floor, like whatever was taking it didn't want to be seen standing up. That was the point where I started checking her room at night. At first, I did it under a respectable excuse: water refill, medication check, making sure she hadn't tried to walk to the bathroom alone. Then I stopped pretending to myself. I was searching under the bed, behind the dresser, the bathroom trash, the laundry basket, inside the nightstand drawers. The room itself began to feel wrong to me in ways I couldn't explain cleanly. It was always warmer than the rest of the house, even with the heat turned down. My mother refused to let me crack the window, even when it smelled stale in there. She insisted on keeping the TV on low throughout the night, though she always claimed it disturbed her sleep. The sour smell in the room got worse after midnight. Not stronger exactly, closer. One night around 1:30, I woke up because I heard chewing. It came through the floorboards at first, a wet, patient sound, then a pause, then another. Not loud, not frantic, not an animal tearing at something, just chewing. I lay still in bed with my heart hitting hard enough to hurt. Chew, pause, chew, downstairs. I got up and stepped into the hall. The house was black except for the bathroom nightlight on the lower floor, throwing a weak orange strip across the entry hall. As soon as my foot hit the third stair, the chewing stopped. I stood there listening so hard my ears rang. Then I heard my mother's voice, not calling out, not frightened, whispering. Too soft to catch words, just that low, private tone people use with shy children, scared dogs, or dying men. I went the rest of the way down the stairs and crossed the hall barefoot. Her bedroom door was open about 2 inches. The lamp inside was off now, but I could see her shape sitting upright on the edge of the bed, facing the far wall. Not the room, not the door, the wall behind the bed. One arm was extended into the dark. For one insane second, I thought she was praying. Then I saw the spoon in her hand. She held it out through a narrow gap between the wardrobe and the wall, and made that same soft, soothing sound again. My entire body went cold. The spoon came back empty. I don't know if I made a sound or if she sensed me there, but she turned her head all at once, and I saw the fear in her face before she arranged it away. "What are you doing?" I asked. She looked at the spoon, then at me. "Nothing." "What are you feeding?" That landed. She didn't answer. She didn't ask what I meant. She didn't act confused. She looked at me the way a child looks at another child who has just kicked over something secret they built together years ago. And then she said very quietly, "Go back to bed." I didn't sleep after that. I sat in the kitchen until morning and listened to the old house settle around me. The pipes, the refrigerator, the little dry clicks from the baseboard cooling. Every sound felt suspect now. Not because it was supernatural, but because I no longer knew which sounds belonged to the house and which ones had been hidden inside all my life. That morning I moved to the wardrobe. My mother tried to stop me, not by shouting, that would have been easier. She pushed herself up onto her cane and said, "Don't," in a tone so raw and frightened, I almost listened. Almost. The wardrobe was heavier than it looked, but old wood drags loud over hardwood. It came away from the wall with a scream of friction and revealed exactly what some part of me had already begun to dread. A panel, painted over to match the wall, low to the ground, about 2 feet wide with an old finger hole near one edge. And when I touched it, a smell breathed out through the seam. I still don't have the right words for that smell. Hot, damp fabric, old spit, medicine syrup, rotting fruit, skin cream. Human waste scrubbed but never fully erased. The smell of life lived too near its own mouth. Behind me, my mother said my name once. Just once. In that tired voice mothers use when they know the day has already gone bad and it can't be repaired. I opened the panel, and there was space behind it. Not much, but more than there should have been. A service gap widened over time into something a body could fit through and eventually live in. Blankets, bowls, a flashlight, pill bottles, root pits, old magazines, a bucket, a heap of washcloths, a child's plastic plate, a spoon, another spoon, my mother's missing skin cream, and farther back in the dimness, a shape. Curled, still, but breathing. I lifted my phone light. It moved. Not like an animal. That would have been a relief, honestly. It moved like a person who had been bent to the dimensions of a wall. One hand came first, palm down on the plywood, fingers splayed too carefully, then a shoulder, then a head, tilting to the light. I saw the hands before I saw the face properly, and that made it worse. They were hands, chapped, narrow, bitten at the nails. One wrist healed, crooked, years ago, and left that way. Not claws, not paws, not anything I could exile into another species. When the face lifted, what hit me wasn't monstrosity, it was intimacy. The shirt it wore had been one of my father's undershirts, cut down and resewn badly. The hair had been hacked short in uneven chunks. Ointment shone in a dull smear along the side of the neck where the skin had cracked. One side of the mouth hung wetter than the other. The eyes had that dim house look, not blind, just adapted to poor light. And behind all of that, horribly intact, was recognition. It looked at me like it knew me. Then my mother said from behind me, "That's your brother." The room tilted. No. This is all I had at first. No. She was crying now, but quietly, almost irritably, as if tears were one more indignity to manage. His name is Noah. I don't have a brother. Yes, she said. You do. That thing in the wall, Noah, made a low sound then. Not a growl, not a moan, more like a hurt little murmur caught in the throat. My mother turned toward him instantly. It's all right. It's all right, sweetheart, she said. Sweetheart. That did more damage than the wall did, because a hidden thing in a crawl space can still be filed under horror if you push hard enough. A mother soothing it with love pushes it somewhere worse. What is he? I said. Her face changed. Not because she didn't understand the question, because she hated that I had asked it anyways. He's your brother. What is he doing in the wall? This time she closed her eyes before answering. Your father wouldn't let me take him. That was the first clean shape of the truth. Not the whole truth, just enough of it to kill off every easier possibility. My father had been the kind of man who believed privacy could solve any shame if you've enforced it hard enough. He kept ugly things behind closed doors, broken furniture in the basement, money problems in his desk drawer, tears in the bedroom, and questions in children. I had never once imagined that his idea of privacy extended to a human being. But once the possibility existed, memory started moving. Not full scenes, fragments. His rule about scraping plates clean and taking food trash outside every night. His fury if I knocked on my mother's bedroom door after 10. The utility cabinet nailed shut when I was 8 because the pipes shifted. The reason my bedroom door always had to stay open at night. The sounds in the wall explained away as mice, old plumbing, raccoons under the eaves. You knew enough when you were little, my mother said. I stared at her. What does that mean? You used to leave him food. The room got very small. No, you did. For what? She looked at the opening. Because you heard him crying. And just like that, something came back. Not story, not even language, just a child's gesture. A paper towel folded around sandwich crusts, my hand sliding it across the kitchen floor towards the laundry door. A pause, a wet little sound from the other side, then running away before I had to think about what I had done. I put one hand on the wall to steady myself. Noah was still watching me from the dark, not with hunger, not with aggression, with a kind of fearful expectation I still didn't have a clean word for. How long? I asked. My mother gave the answer after less than a second. Your whole life. I called Adult Protective Services that morning. Then I called the sheriff's office. I wish I could make that part dramatic, but horror rarely becomes less degrading when other people arrive. It just gets fluorescent. A deputy, a county social worker, an EMT, then more people after they saw the wall. Noah did not come out easily. He recoiled from strangers and made those same low, broken sounds every time they came too close. He bit one medic hard enough to send blood down the man's wrist. My mother screamed then, really screamed, tried to stand, nearly fell. The social worker kept saying her name over and over in that careful, professional way that means I am trying really hard not to make this uglier in front of anyone than it already is. And throughout all of it, Noah kept looking for her. That was the worst part. Not the smell, not the wall, not the years of bowls and bandages and damp little hidden scavenged things. The worst part was that he kept looking for her. Not because she had hidden him, because she was still his mother. When they finally got him onto a stretcher and wheeled him through the hall, he turned his head and found me immediately. And with a voice so ruined it barely counted as one, he said my name. Not Evan. The little nickname only my family used when I was a kid. That was when I understood the last part I had been trying not to understand. He didn't just know me now, he had known me then. My mother never forgave me. Before they moved her to a rehab facility, she said exactly one thing that still wakes me up sometimes. Don't make him feel unwanted again. Again. That word did more damage than anything else. Again means there had been a first time. Again means some child version of me had done enough to hurt him that my mother still carried it. Again means I did not grow up outside this secret. I grew up shaping around it. I cleaned out the house alone that summer. Once you know what a house has really been for, every object it turns into a witness. The extra canned peaches in the pantry, the duplicate ointment purchases in old pharmacy bags, the baby monitor with tape over the speaker light, the cut-down undershirts in my mother's bottom drawer, the washcloth hidden behind the water heater, the scratch mark on the inside of the wall panel, the stack of children's books in the crawl space with the corners chewed off, and in a shoebox behind my mother's winter clothes, one Polaroid. Two boys on a kitchen floor, me, maybe 7, then the other one, smaller, thinner, turned towards me. Not a creature, not a shame, just a child. My brother. I sold the house in August. That sounds cleaner than it felt. On paper, the hidden wall space had been reported, opened, documented, sanitized, and sealed. The county had done what counties do, corrected the structure, filed the forms, converted horror into compliance. Paper means nothing. I moved back into my apartment and tried to resume my life. For a while, I almost believed I had. Then one Sunday, I bought peaches. I set 4 of them in a bowl on the kitchen counter, took a shower, and came back to find 3. I stood there dripping onto the tile, staring at the bowl. Maybe I miscounted. Maybe one had rolled. Maybe I was already worse than I thought. Then I heard the sound from the hall closet. My water heater is in there. Old building. Pipes click and knock sometimes. This wasn't that. This was soft, wet, chewing. I did not move. I stood there barefoot and half dressed, staring at the closet door while the sound went on for maybe 5 more seconds, maybe 20, long enough for my entire body to understand it before my mind did. Then it stopped. A second later, something tapped once against the inside of the door. Not scratching, not banging, just one careful tap, like it knew I was there and didn't want to startle me. And then from behind the slats, I heard a voice try my childhood nickname again. Not cleanly, not fully, but close enough. Close enough that my knees nearly folded. I don't buy peaches anymore. I don't leave food in the sink overnight. I don't shut my bedroom door all the way. And every few nights, no matter how much I tell myself I'm imagining it, I still wake up listening for the sound of somebody chewing in the walls of a place I thought was finally mine. The worst part is not that I hear it sometimes. The worst part is that part of me still listens for whether it sounds hungry. The end.
Wall brother. Oh my god.
Oh, brother. He's at the wall.
That is definitely not what I was expecting, like halfway
No?
through the story. No.
Yeah?
All I know is I heard like the chewing on bandages and I got so grossed out.
I know. It
I don't
is
know why.
kind of
That one
gross.
got to me. That's sad.
That is sad. It's sad and it's also like horrifying. I also have so many questions. Like,
Mhm.
why is he still in the wall? Because like I presume the dad's not around if he had to come back to help his mom. So like,
Right.
why is the kid still in the fucking wall?
Let him out.
I know, right? Like, god damn.
Jeez.
Also, if he was taken into Child Protective Services, how did he end up in his brother's wall?
Yeah. To the left, I guess. He's like,
That's
nah,
what
I'm good. Back to
and
the
like
walls I go.
why is the solution I'm just not gonna buy peaches.
That's it. Problem solved. Just never eat peaches again.
I know,
That's
right?
it.
Like
That's
you're
how you
like,
do it.
damn, my psychotic wall brother has found his way into my home. The solution? Don't feed him.
Yeah. I would I would feed him. I would feel bad. I'd be like,
I
"You don't
feel
have to be in
so
the wall,
bad.
man. Come out of
Oh
the
my
wall.
god.
Sit on the couch. Watch
You
some
don't gotta live
cartoons."
like that.
Right.
Do you know what anime is? Has anyone showed you that lately?
You ever seen this thing they call the television?
Yeah. You ever
Yeah.
hear of Spotify?
I thought it was gonna
What
be
about
like
YouTube?
I thought it was gonna be like the mom was going crazy and eating weird shit, but
I I
I
thought that
definitely
at
wasn't
first.
expecting Wall Brother.
Yeah, no, that this one really took me by surprise. I was like, "What the like, where did that come from?" I was
Mhm.
not prepared. Like, the first time I read this, I literally had to stop and be like, "Did I accidentally switch to a different story?" Because that's crazy. Like, I thought it definitely was gonna be, like, her eating, like or, like, maybe her feeding some kind of monster or entity or something, but nah, it's fucking Wall Brother.
Wall Brother.
Alrighty, are you ready to wow me with your story?
Yes, and actually, I'm going to have a little thing here before the story because the author I am reading tonight actually has a novella out on Amazon.
Ooh.
So I'm going to read you a little snippet from that. The name of the story is Puppets of the Pale Light. It's by Muhammad Gamal Frank. We'll have the link for it in the show notes. And a little snippet of the story goes like this. Audio restoration engineer Kevin makes his living isolating noise to find the clean truth beneath. But for the last 72 hours, he's been plagued by a relentless low frequency vibration hammering directly into the marrow of his jaw at exactly 40 beats per minute. Doctors dismiss this as stress induced phantom symptoms, and his family fears he is losing his mind. Desperate for proof, Kevin transforms his closet into a makeshift sensory deprivation tomb and uses highly sensitive bone conducting microphones to record the rhythm. The results confirm his darkest fear. The thumping is a real physical pressure in the room. Seeking answers, he uploads his findings to clandestine deep web board populated by data hoarders and structural engineers. What begins as a desperate plea for explanation rapidly escalates into a terrifying global collaboration. Kevin's record pulse aligns flawlessly with unimaginable tectonic shifts in Tokyo, severe electromagnetic interference in London, and the sudden structural sway of high-tension bridges across the northern hemisphere. Data points to a singular, unthinkable origin. The rhythm is tied directly to the sky above, and as a network of listeners digs deeper into the hidden frequency, the signal begins to push back. So that's the summary of his novella that he has out. So he asked me to put that in there. So you can definitely go find that on Amazon.
Is that a horror story about tinnitus? Because that's so cool. Wait, I love the representation. Fuck yeah.
Yes, yes,
I
definitely.
joke, but in all seriousness, that does actually sound really
It
interesting.
does
So,
sound very interesting, but like I said,
yeah,
you can find it on Amazon. We'll leave the link in the show notes there. But
absolutely.
I am going to be starting this story. It is from Gamal Frank.
Okay.
Found him on Reddit, as usual. It is I am a highway patrol officer. My eyes saw a tired family, but my dash cam saw rotting corpses smiling at me.
Oh,
Yeah, you ready?
hell yeah. I am so ready. Let's go.
All right. I am parked directly under the harsh, buzzing fluorescent canopy of a 24-hour fuel station. I have locked all four doors. I have the engine running and the heater turned on high, and all interior lights illuminated. I am surrounded by concrete and artificial light, and I still cannot stop my hands from shaking against the steering wheel. I am a country law enforcement officer. I've only been on the force for 2 years, but I've built a reputation for being strict, thorough, and completely reliant on protocol. I like rules. I like guidelines. In this line of work, the manual is your best tool. If you follow the steps, if you run into plates, if you approach the vehicle at the correct angle, you eliminate variables and maintain control of the situation. My assigned parole sector is a massive, desolate stretch of two-lane country highway. It's a lonely, isolated assignment. The road runs along the eastern perimeter of a massive, deep, freshwater lake. The layout of the geography means there's absolutely nothing out there. On the left side of the highway, there is a steep, rocky embankment that drops directly into the dark water of the lake. On the right side, there is an endless, dense expanse of thick pine forest. There are no houses, no streetlights, and no intersecting roads for over 40 miles. It's just a ribbon of dark asphalt trapped between the deep woods and the deep water. I work the graveyard shift. I patrol this highway from 10 at night until 6 in the morning. Usually, the entire 8-hour shift consists of driving back and forth in complete silence, listening to the hum of my tires and the occasional crackle of the dispatch radio. Sometimes I pull over a long haul trucker who missed a turn, or a local teenager driving too fast. It's a quiet, predictable job. Tonight started like exactly every other night. The weather was clear but cold. A thick layer of fog was rolling off the surface of the lake, creeping over the embankment and drifting across the asphalt. I was cruising at 40 miles per hour, holding a cup of lukewarm coffee, scanning the dark road ahead with my headlights. At approximately 2:15 a.m., I saw a vehicle driving a few miles ahead of me. I sped up slightly to close the difference. I sped up slightly to close the distance. It was a dark-colored minivan, an older model. It was traveling well under the speed limit, moving maybe about 30 miles per hour. As I got closer, I noticed two things. First, the passenger side taillight was completely burnt out. Second, the vehicle was swerving. It was not violent, erratic swerve, but a slow drifting weave. The tires drifted over the solid yellow the tires drifted over the solid yellow line in the center of the road, corrected slowly, and then drifted back over to the white shoulder line near the edge of the lake embankment. Protocol for this is clear. A burned out taillight is a minor traffic violation, but combined with the swerving, it establishes reasonable suspicion for driving under the influence or extreme driver fatigue. I had to initiate a traffic stop. I pulled up behind the minivan, keeping a safe distance of 3 car lengths. I reached down the center console and flipped the switch for my overhead emergency lights. The flashing red and blue strobes instantly illuminated the dark highway, reflecting off the thick pine trees to the right and cutting through the fog drifting off the lake to the left. The driver of the minivan reacted slowly. It took them nearly a quarter of a mile to register the lights in their rearview mirror. Eventually, the right turn signal blinked. and the van slowly pulled over onto the narrow gravel shoulder, coming to a stop just a few feet away from the steep drop off into the water. I pulled my cruiser onto the shoulder behind them. I followed my training exactly. I offset my vehicle slightly to the left, creating a safety corridor between my cruiser and the flow of traffic. I angled my front wheels towards the road, so if a drunk driver rear-ended my cruiser, it would not be pushed forward into the minivan. I put the transmission in park, unbuckled my seatbelt, and grabbed my heavy metal flashlight. I stepped out into the cold night air. The only sounds were the low rumble of two idling engines, the crunch of gravel under my boots, and the faint rhythmic lapping of the lake water hitting the rocks at the bottom of the embankment. I walked up to the rear of the minivan. I reached out with my left hand and firmly pressed my palm against the trunk lid. This is another standard protocol. You leave your fingerprints on the vehicle. If something happens to you, the investigators will have physical proof that you were standing right behind that specific car. The metal of the trunk felt unusually cold and damp. I walked up to the driver's side, keeping my flashlight pointed low. I stopped just behind the driver's side window, angling my body so I was an easy target if the driver decided to open the door aggressively. I tapped on the glass with my flashlight. The window rolled down manually with a squeaking sound. I shined the beam of my flashlight into the interior of the van. It was a perfectly normal family. The driver was a middle-aged woman. She looked incredibly exhausted. Her hair was messy, and there were dark, heavy bags under her eyes. She squinted against the glare of my flashlight. Sitting in the passenger seat was a middle-aged man. He was wearing a plaid flannel shirt. His head was tilted back against the headrest, eyes closed, lightly snoring. He looked completely relaxed. I moved the beam of my flashlight to the back seat. There were two children, a boy and a girl, maybe 8 or 9 years old. They were both fast asleep, their heads leaning against the cold glass of the side windows. There was a pile of blankets and pillows shoved between them. It looked exactly like a family pushing through the final exhausting hours of a long road trip. "Good evening, ma'am," I said, keeping my voice polite but firm. "I'm stopping you tonight because your passenger side taillight is completely out, and I noticed you were having some trouble in maintaining your lane." The woman rubbed her face with a tired hand. "I'm so sorry, officer," she said. Her voice was quiet and hoarse. "We've been driving for a very long time. We just wanted to get there before morning. I guess I'm more tired than I realized." "It happens," I replied. "But driving exhausted on this stretch of highway is dangerous, especially this close to the water. I need to see your license and registration and proof of insurance, please." She nodded slowly. She reached across the sleeping man in the passenger seat, opened the glove compartment, and pulled out a small stack of papers. She handed them to me along with a plastic driver's license. When her fingers brushed against mine, her skin felt freezing cold. It felt like touching a piece of ice. "I'm going to take these back to my cruiser and run your information," I told her. "I will be right back. Please remain in the vehicle." She didn't say anything. She just gave me a slow, tired nod and looked straight ahead through the windshield. I turned around and walked back to my cruiser. I climbed into the driver's seat, pulled the heavy door shut, and placed the license and registration on the center console. I turned on the overhead dome light so I could read the small print. I picked up my radio microphone. "Dispatch, this is Unit 4. I am initiating a traffic stop on a dark-colored minivan, requesting plate check." The radio crackled. The dispatcher on duty tonight was an older woman who usually worked the quiet shifts. "Copy that, Unit 4. Go ahead with the plate number." I read the alphanumeric sequence off the registration paper. "Copy," she replied. "Stand by. The system's running a little slow tonight." I put the microphone down and I settled back in my seat, enjoying the warm air blowing from the heater vents. The heavy protocol of the stop was complete. Now I just had to wait for the computer system to verify the documents, write a simple warning ticket for the broken taillight, and advise the tired mother to pull over and rest. While I waited, I glanced down at my center console. Mounted directly below the radio is a small, heavy-duty monitor. It displays the live video feed from the cruiser's dashboard camera. The camera records continuously during a traffic stop, capturing everything that happens directly in front of my vehicle. The video is strictly black and white, designed to capture high contrast details like license plates and low light conditions. Out of pure ingrained habit, I looked at the monitor to ensure the camera was recording the minivan. I stopped breathing. The image displayed on the small screen was wrong. It was entirely, fundamentally wrong. I looked at the screen, and my brain struggled to process the visual information. The cameras pointed directly at the space in front of my cruiser. The red and blue strobe lights were flashing across the scene in alternating waves of bright white and deep black. The vehicle on the monitor was not the minivan I just walked away from. The van on the screen was crushed. The roof was caved entirely inward, bending metal frame down towards the seats. The rear bumper was twisted and hanging off by a single resting bolt. The interior was completely covered in a thick, dark, hanging layers of aquatic algae and river weeds. The tires were flat, rotting, and half buried in thick mud. It looked exactly like a vehicle that had been pulled from the bottom of the lake after decades of underwater. But that was not the part that made my blood turn to ice. The dashboard camera was positioned directly behind the rusted, crushed rear view of the van. The glass was shattered. Looking out through the broken back window, staring directly into the lens of the dashboard camera, were four faces. They were bloated. They were skeletal. The flesh hanging from their faces was gray, peeling away from the bone in wet, ragged strips. Their eye sockets were empty, dark, hollow pits filled with stagnant water. They were pressed tightly together in the back of the crushed vehicle. The mother, the father, the two children, they were all looking directly at the camera, and they were smiling. It was not a natural expression. Their jawbones were pulled back, stretching their rotting, waterlogged skin into a wide, unnatural, gaping grins. They were completely motionless, suspended in the grainy black and white feed, just staring and smiling into the lens. A wave of suffocating panic slammed into my chest. My hands gripped the edges of the monitor so hard my knuckles turned white. I thought the camera system was malfunctioning. I tore my eyes away from the screen and looked up through my windshield. Parked 20 feet in front of me was a pristine, dark-colored minivan. The metal was clean. The roof was perfectly intact. The red glow of the functioning brake light illuminated the gravel shoulder. Through the window, I could see the silhouette of the two children sleeping peacefully under their blankets. I could see their mother looking in the side mirror, watching my cruiser. Everything was perfectly normal. I looked back at the monitor. The crushed, rusted, algae covered wreckage was still there. The four rotting skeletal corpses were still there. They had moved. The mother had raised her hand. A skeletal bloated arm, covered in peeling wet skin and thick green weeds, was pressed against the shattered glass of the rear window. She was tapping on the glass from the inside. I could not hear the tapping through the heavy doors of my cruiser, but I could see the bone of her finger hitting the lens on the screen. Tap, tap, tap. They were still smiling, that wide, gaping, impossible grin. I felt dizzy. I reached forward with a shaking hand and physically hit the side of the monitor, hoping to reset the feed. The screen flickered, but the image remained. The bloated corpses continued to stare. Suddenly, the radio crackled loudly, breaking the heavy silence in the cruiser. Unit 4, this is dispatch, the older woman's voice said. She sounded deeply confused. Her professional tone had completely slipped. I grabbed the microphone, fumbling with the cord. Unit 4, go ahead. I ran the plate and license, she said slowly. Are you absolutely sure you read that sequence correctly? Are you sure you're looking at a dark minivan? Yes, I stammered, my eyes darting between the pristine van out the windshield and the nightmare on the screen. I'm parked behind it. Why? The system flagged the registration, the dispatcher said. Those plates belong to a vehicle that was involved in a major missing persons case 30 years ago. I felt the blood drain from my face. Missing? Yeah, a family of four, she read from her screen. They were driving cross country. They were last seen at the gas station near your current location. The police searched for weeks. The primary theory is that the driver fell asleep at the wheel and the vehicle went off the embankment into the lake. They never found the car. They never found the bodies. The license you gave me belongs to the mother. Her status is listed as legally dead. The radio went silent. I sat completely frozen in the driver's seat. The heater was blowing hot air onto my face, but I was shivering uncontrollably. I slowly raised my head to look through the windshield. The pristine minivan was gone. It had not driven away. I had not heard the engine start. I had not heard the tires crunching on the gravel. The red brake light was simply gone. The space in front of my cruiser was completely empty. I reached up and engaged a mechanical lever for the high-powered spotlight mounted on the driver's side pillar. I twisted the handle, aiming the bright beam of light directly at the patch of gravel where the van had been parked seconds ago. There were no tire tracks. Instead, covering the gravel shoulder was a massive puddle of thick, black, stagnant water. The water was actively bubbling, seeping quickly into the dirt. A horrible, foul smell began to enter the air vents of my cruiser. It smelled like dead fish, rotting wood, and ancient, stagnant mud. I looked down at the dashboard monitor. The screen was displaying a live feed of the empty gravel shoulder and the puddle of water. The crushed fan was gone. The corpses were gone. I dropped the radio microphone into the passenger seat. I could barely grab the gear shift. I needed to put the cruiser in drive. I needed to turn around and drive away from the lake as fast as the engine would allow. Protocol didn't matter anymore. I just needed to leave. I grabbed the gear shift and pulled down into drive. Before my foot could touch the accelerator, the entire patrol cruiser violently lurched. It was a massive concussive impact that originated from the right side of the vehicle. The heavy metal frame of the Ford Explorer groaned under the sudden stress. My head snapped to the right, hitting the headrest. The cruiser was moving. It was being dragged sideways. Something was pulling the 2-ton police vehicle across the gravel shoulder, dragging it directly toward the steep embankment that dropped into the black water of the lake. I slammed my foot down on the gas pedal. The powerful engine roared. The RPM needle jumped into the red. The rear tires spun frantically, kicking up a massive cloud of gravel, dirt, and mud. The tires screamed, trying to find traction on the loose shoulder, but the sideways momentum was too strong. We were sliding towards the edge. I turned my head and looked at the passenger side window. The lake was churning. The dark, flat surface of the water was boiling, sending thick white foam crashing against the rocks. Rising out of the freezing black water were 4 figures. It was the family, the mother, the father, the 2 children, but they weren't human anymore. They were the bloated, skeletal, rotting corpse from the camera monitor. Their flesh was gray and peeling. Their eye sockets stared blankly at my cruiser. Their jaws were unhinged, locking into that wide, horrific grin. They were suspended in the air. Attached to the back of each rotting corpse was a massive, thick, muscular appendage. They looked like dark, wet, glistening tentacles, thicker than tree trunks, emerging from the deep water of the lake. The tentacles were fused directly into the spines of the corpses, using the dead human bodies like fleshy, rotting puppets. The tentacles extended from the lake, reaching up the rocky embankment. The rotting puppet corpses of a family were pressed directly against the side of my cruiser. Their bloated skeletal hands were grabbing the window frames, the door handles, the wheel wells. The strength of the appendages was impossible. They were driving the heavy police cruiser sideways through the deep gravel, inch by agonizing inch, pulling me closer to the drop-off. The smell of the stagnant water and the rotting flesh was overwhelming, filling the cabin of the cruiser. The metal doors buckled inward under the crushing pressure of the tentacles. The passenger side window shattered, spraying tiny cubes of safety glass across the front seat. One of the bloated, rotting arms reached through the broken window. The skeletal fingers, dripping with thick lake mud, grabbed the fabric of my passenger seat, pulling the cruiser harder towards the cliff. The rear tires of my cruiser slipped over the edge of the embankment. The back of the vehicle dropped violently, the undercarriage slamming against the sharp rocks. My stomach dropped. I was angled upward, staring at the night sky. The black water of the lake was churning wildly just a few feet below my rear bumper. I had exactly 1 second before the center of gravity shifted completely and the cruiser tumbled backward into the deep water. I grabbed the steering wheel with both hands, locked my elbows, and slammed my heavy police boot completely down on the accelerator pedal. The engine screamed, pushing maximum torque all-wheel drive system. The front tires, still gripping the solid asphalt of the highway lane, bit down hard. The river burned against the road, filling the air with thick white smoke. For a terrifying, agonizing second, the cruiser held completely stationary, suspended in a brutal tug-of-war between the horsepower of the engine and the crushing strength of the tentacles in the lake. The metal frame groaned, the engine whined. Then the front tires caught traction. The cruiser violently jerked forward. The sudden explosive forward momentum ripped the vehicle out of the grip of the rotting corpses. I heard a wet, sickening tearing sound as the skeletal hands gripping for the window frame were physically ripped away from the tentacles. The cruiser launched forward, climbing over the edge of the embankment and slamming hard into the flat asphalt of the highway. The rear tires caught the road, propelling the vehicle forward like a missile. I did not let go of the gas pedal. I kept my foot floored. I looked in the rearview mirror. The massive, wet tentacles were withering on the gravel shoulder, aggressively slapping the ground where my cruiser had just been. The rotting bodies of the family dangled limply from the ends of the appendages. As I sped away, the things slowly pulled the tentacles back down the embankment, dragging the skeletal puppets beneath the black, churning surface of the lake, disappearing without a splash. I drove over 110 miles per hour down the country highway. I did not turn on my sirens. I did not radio dispatch to tell them what happened. I just drove, staring straight ahead, gripping the wheel until my hands went numb. I didn't stop until I saw the bright, artificial canopy of the fuel station. I pulled into the lights and threw the cruiser into park. I have been sitting here ever since. I've checked the passenger side of my vehicle. The window's completely shattered. The heavy metal doors are deeply dented, crushed inward by a massive circular pressure. Sitting on the passenger seat, resting amid the broken glass, are three severed skeletal fingers, completely coated in thick, foul-smelling lake mud. I'm not going back to the station. I am leaving the keys in the ignition, and I am walking away from this job. I do not care about the rules anymore. I'm writing this on my phone and posting it here as a direct warning to anyone driving alone at night. If you're traveling down a desolate highway near a large body of deep water, and you see a vehicle driving slowly, drifting over the lines, trying to get your attention, do not stop. Do not pull over to help them. The end.
I think that's the first one that's given me like really hard goosebumps. It was so good, first of all. An amazing job. But like I feel like it's like kind of like what was it like La Llorona where like you kind of got to like if you pass the test, you pass the test and like you don't get fucked with, but if you fail the test, oh no.
I just like how he's like, yeah, I'm done. I quit. Goodbye.
I would
I'm
too.
out of here.
I
I
would
ain't going
literally
back.
never go. I would go to the furthest spot on the globe from where that happened. Absolutely not.
Yeah, yeah, no, I would also just leave.
That
Yeah,
is horrifying. Oh my god. It was so good though. Wait, you did such a great job.
he's a very, very talented writer. Like I said, you should definitely go check out his book on
I
Amazon.
know.
I'm
I'm
thinking
gonna
about
have to
getting it.
read
I'm
the
gonna
book.
be honest. I might look at
Yeah,
it.
after that I do think, yeah, I really do actually kind of want to read the book.
Well,
Wait.
we had the link. You can find it.
Oh my god. I didn't like the fingers. I gotta say, that reminded me of like the clown on DVD, and I was just like, I was already like creeped out, and like, and then I was just like disgusted.
Yeah, yeah. I don't like the leftover fingers.
No,
But yeah.
ew. But no, like I just had like the mental image pop into my head. I was like, oh, the clown would love those in his car, little
Mm,
finger snacks.
I just don't like them. Like, it's crazy because you think that it's gonna end when the car like disappears,
Yeah.
but then it's like, nah, you're coming in here too. And you almost feel like it's a ghost story, but then you see like the appendages like using the people as
Yeah.
puppets and stuff.
Mhm.
So it's like, what was it really?
It was horrifying. That's what it was. Oh, that was excellent. Also, fun fact, I read along with you. and there's this little, like, Luigi image on the right-hand side, and, like, it's, like, right next to the part where, he, like, goes to, like, grab the gear shift and put it into drive, and I just look over and I see Luigi with some, like, monster behind it. I kinda died a little bit. Do you see that?
Yes, if you're wondering what she's talking about, you'll have to go check out his story on Reddit, which will be
Yeah.
in the notes. Ugh.
I don't know, something about that just kind of, like, it worsened the fear a little bit 'cause I was so caught off guard, and I didn't know what to do.
Oh man,
But
it's
yeah,
not Luigi.
that was a fantastic story, but I do think while we originally planned for me to do another one, we're already over an hour and it's quite late, so we might just have to save that one for next episode.
Yes, so make sure you come hang out next time.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
we always leave our Discord and our other socials in the show notes below. But if you're not, please go follow, like, subscribe, and come back for more.
yes, I hope you are sufficiently spooked out.
hmm I don't know if I really like quite want to go to bed yet now, but like that was a good one to leave off on, I think.
Yeah, he's very talented. So,
hmm
all right, I am very tired. Sorry if you could hear that in my voice. It's been a long day, but
All right. Well, let's say goodbye.
all right. We'll see you guys in the next one. Have a good night.
Good
Bye.
night. Bye.